However, ongoing events prevented the disappearance of Zionism. In 1905, revolution broke out in Russia. Tsar Nicholas II ordered the revolt to be crushed ruthlessly. As he dispatched his Cossack troops against the revolutionaries, he resorted to the age-old ugly trick of diverting social resentment toward the Jews, the classic scapegoats of all crises. Within a single week in October 1905, more than 50 pogroms, all government-inspired, took place in Tsarist Russia. Jewish flight from Russia attained the dimensions of an entire national migration. The vast majority emigrated to Western countries, primarily the United States. Only a few chose Palestine. Palestine was never an attractive country for immigration. It could offer only a life of poverty, a difficult climate, and fatal diseases. It was last on the colonialists' list of desirable countries. Only deep spiritual motivation could bring civilized people to Palestine.
I crossed the Jezreel Valley on a narrow path through a haze of swarming mosquitoes. I finally reached Kinneret, the wasteland which we began to restore. The land was dead. You had to have deep conviction to attempt to revitalize such soil.
Great enthusiasm marked the early years of Zionism in the land of Israel. The founding fathers believed that assimilation in the diaspora was to bring about the extinction of the Jewish people. Only here, in their historic surroundings, would the Jewish people have an opportunity for rejuvenation. Eliezer ben Yehuda, a founding father of the Zionist movement, argued that return to Zion alone was not sufficient to rescue Judaism from assimilation and extinction. Something else was required, a return to the Hebrew language. In Jerusalem, ben Yehuda conducted an astonishing experiment. He raised the first children in 2,000 years whose mother tongue was Hebrew.
They didn't let us play with other children. We were under kind of house arrest. We were not allowed to go out into the street and speak to strange children. And what happened when, say, my oldest brother reached the age of 4, 5, or 6 and had no friends? My parents brought home a dog and a cat, a male dog and a female cat. My brother could speak to the dog in the masculine and to the cat in the feminine. And so he learned to use gender in speaking with others. These were the first friends, and also the first animals to speak Hebrew for some 2,000 years.
The revival of the Hebrew language, a historical wonder unprecedented in the annals of mankind, was by no means a simple matter. Street demonstrations like those photographed in Jerusalem in 1911 were needed to institute Hebrew as the language of study in schools. Administrators of Jewish schools claimed that it was impossible to teach arithmetic and geometry in the Holy Tongue. But the demonstrators, zealots for the Hebrew language, contended that it was indeed possible and that there was no choice. Otherwise, the Jewish nation would not survive. What were the Arabs of Palestine thinking as they saw the Jews waving their blue and white flags? What was this land to them? Islam came to the Holy Land in the 7th century. Tribes of fearless warriors burst forth from the Arabian desert and in a series of startling conquests took over vast territories extending from India to Spain. For several centuries, as Christian Europe groped through the darkness of the Middle Ages, the Arabs were the standard bearers of progress and culture. The natural sciences, philosophy, and fine arts all flourished under their rule. The sanctity of Jerusalem captured the hearts of the Muslims. Some 1400 years ago, they erected a splendid mosque on the very site of the ancient Jewish temple razed by the Romans, thus rendering Jerusalem the third most important holy city in Islam after Mecca and Medina. Since the time of the Muslim conquest, Arabs had constituted the majority of the inhabitants of Palestine. But throughout Arab history, Palestine had never been a political unit. It was part of the Arab-speaking world extending from the Atlantic to the Indian Oceans. When the Jews began their large-scale return to Zion in the 19th century, the Arabs were politically dormant. No organized resistance arose during the first 38 years of Zionist settlement in Palestine. Very few Arabs had indeed warned of the Zionist peril. They could rely on the anti-Zionist Turkish regime to thwart all Jewish aspirations.